Great to see you finally, Rupen.
I know. It's been, 18 months of Zoom calls.
Yeah, almost weekly calls. First time actually face-to-face in Singapore. Great to see you. And congratulations, Rupen, on making it to the shortlist of the Global Market of the Year competition. The 7 nominees have just been published, and Rupen is on the shortlist. Well done.
Thank you. It's a great nomination for the team, and I just get to be the face around it, so I'm happy with that. Yeah.
And Rupen, you've been, I think you've called yourself an accidental marketeer. Tell us a bit about your journey, from being, what I understand was an average pupil in an Indian school, to an electric engineer, to a PR professional, to a CMO. Talk to us about this journey.
So I didn't grow up in this business with a dream to ever be a marketeer. And I didn't grow up within the business in the archetypical way of, I'm a brand manager, I'm a senior brand manager, brand director, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But what I've learned over my career is to find moments of oxygen. So when I got out of school, and when you're in India, you're probably going to end up becoming a doctor or an engineer. So I did end up becoming an electrical engineer. I realized pretty early on, I was pretty shit with it, right? So I do have a graduate's degree in engineering, but if you ever want anything changed at home, I'm not the person to call. And then I did an MBA. And in MBA on campus, you're allowed 1 of 2 jobs, and then you've got to kind of select and move on. And I had 2 offers that day. One was for Arthur Andersen, this is Accenture now, offering twice the money as compared to Lintas, an advertising agency. The people who had come to interview me from Lintas were wearing denim to the interview, whereas the people who were from Arthur Andersen were all proper tied up, like slick, but a bit too straight-jacketed. And I chose half the money just because I wanted to wear jeans every day to work. And I think for me, that was a moment of oxygen. You see, I'm a big believer that in life, whether it is a job, whether it is your partner, whether it is the team you work with, whether it's your peer group, they either give you oxygen or they take away oxygen. And if I look back on hindsight to all of the stuff I've chosen, it's been, I need more oxygen, I need to be able to change the status quo, I want to transform companies in a big way, and if they sap away oxygen, then I'm the first one to move on to other stuff.
And so you spent quite some time in your career in PR. And there's often this sort of perceived tension between PR and marketing. And now that you've moved into the CMO role, how would you perceive that tension? And what does it add to the way you're looking at your CMO role?
So I'm very grateful for the kind of experience. I spent a lot of time in advertising and then time in PR. And you see, when you're in advertising, you learn the arrogance of broadcast. You learn the arrogance that as long as I make some stuff and I put it out there, there are enough people to watch it. And statistics like WFA's own stat tells us that 74% of the people wouldn't care if most brands they use today just disappear. But you grow up within the business with a lot of arrogance. I mean, arrogance in a good way, but you grow up in a broadcast mentality. And then I think my experience with PR taught me a lot about different currencies. Currencies like attention, currencies like trust, currencies like multi-stakeholder conversation, currencies like conversation itself, way before social media forced that upon us. And I think that combination allows me to look at creativity differently in my job. It allows me to channel my agencies differently. It allows me to channel my own teams very differently. It allows me on the daily battle that we fight against indifference. You see, otherwise, if I take that stat of 74%, that means 74% of what most of us as an industry are doing is GIGO. It's garbage in and garbage out. We may congratulate ourselves about it, but the consumer ain't watching it.
And so when you moved to the brand side, this was the first time in your career, why was it so compelling for you to move to the brand side, and why on earth would you pick Dole?
So, look, if somebody comes to you after a 23, 24 years of career in advertising and PR and lays down, here is a fruit company, a 170-year-old fruit company, it's an agri-trading mindset, okay, which it has been. Agriculture does not have the best record in its past in terms of business practices and so on and so forth. It's probably the best persuasion not to accept it, right? But then I chose a moment of oxygen, which was a boss. So the CEO of the company was starting the same time as me. And we realized that what we had in this 170-year-old company was the start of a 170-year-old startup. You see, it's one of the rare product categories which you can literally eat your purpose. You know, Mother Earth grows some amazing stuff, and as long as we don't add sugar to it, we don't destroy people's health, we don't put it in single-use plastic, we don't destroy the planet that makes this amazing stuff, we have a journey of health, wellness, and nutrition for the next 170 years. So the challenge of being able to put this purpose at the heart of the business model, and which is what the last 3 years have been, at the heart of how we make our money, how we scale our growth, how business becomes a force for good, so that we never have to compare consumption versus the impact on the planet. We never have to compare consumption versus the impact we're having on people's health. And look, early this morning, Pratik spoke, and I'm a big fan of the work Pratik is doing. But he's selling sugary water. Whereas I have a product which is purposeful to begin with, and the next 170 years of this company allows us to write a history where we literally create a new way business needs to be done.
And tell me very candidly, when you made that decision, were there any elements which made you hesitate? And how did they play out in the end? How did you overcome that?
I spent about 2.5 months refusing Pure Luigi because all the fears that you have start playing, right? I don't want to join an agri-trading company. I'm used to being in an advertising business where we work on 20 brands. You know, I sell deodorants that make males more attractive to women. I sell banks and make them world's local bank. I sell baby products. I sell televisions. It's all slick and sexy. But somewhere a driving force of business needs to be a better force. You see, for the longest time, we have prioritized prosperity at the cost of people and the planet. So every time a company grows, the planet is left worse off. Every time a company grows, there's more plastic. Every time a company grows, communities are more poorer. And if there is one opportunity that we're trying to envision with Dole, is every time Dole grows, it's the interdependence. People, planet, and prosperity all can thrive interdependently together, not at the cost of each other. And so that moment of oxygen kind of took care of all the 20,000 niggling doubts that told me that this is probably the worst decision I'm going to make just because I'm emotionally connected and believe in a leader.
And once you're retired, and you have your grandchildren around you, and you look back to that period where you were CMO of Dole, what will you consider to be a success? What will be, retrospectively, your KPI in terms of deciding whether it was successful? period.
I spoke about it, but I want to write the new code of consumption coming at a better planet. I want to write the new code of consumption coming where people are much more equal as a world. So if I just take a look at nutrition, you see, depending on your gender, depending on where you're born, depending on your socio-economic reality, your access to good nutrition is different. Like the world we live in today, the world my children are growing up in, unhealthy food is far more affordable. Unhealthy food is far more acceptable. Another food is far more available. I mean, you go through a highway in America and all you see is totem pole after totem pole of unhealthy food. And you got to have $15 to enjoy a quinoa salad, which not everybody can enjoy. So it is upon us as a generation to change the code of business where prosperity of the company, prosperity of the shareholder is not the single-minded objective. It's one of them, because we're a for-profit company. We want to make money. We can do all the other things when we make money. But prosperity of people, prosperity of every member of the stakeholder, prosperity of my farmer, prosperity of the planet is the code that is dying to be written. Companies like Unilever, companies like Innocent, there are lots of companies that have started writing the code. And for me, if and when I retire, you and I are sitting having a cigar and a glass of single malt. If I can have any role to have played in that book, that'll be a life well led.
So that's in a few decades. And now today, as you are measured in your performance as your CMO, how is that measured in your annual review? You know, are there other sort of metrics related to the impact you're having on that agenda?
Yes, absolutely. Look, change always needs to begin with ourselves. So when we launched Dole Promises, it became a blueprint for the way we wanted to do business. And therefore, all these measures that I'm talking about are changing the way we are structuring the company, the way people are hired, the way people are paid, the way they are incentivized. So it's no longer economic value alone. It's economic value, social value, educational value, planet value, around which people get measured to perform and around which they get incentivized when they do better. And that change is the change of the business model that we're trying. And look, I'm probably making it sound much easier than it is. It's not. On any given day, whether within the system or outside, there'll always be detractors. There'll always be people wanting to take us back till the Milton Friedman, profit is everything era. But at the same time, there is a huge change. I mean, you saw it at COP. We're having discussions on this every day. Business cannot continue the way it has been for the last few decades. Our children demand a better planet than currently the one we seem to be leaving behind for them.
Now talk to us about this perceived tension between the short term and the long term. Now we understand the vision of a force for growth, force for good, longer term. But how do you manage that short-term tension that can exist between your sustainability agenda and the company performance?
So this short-term, long-term is the perpetual reason why a lot of companies don't take the first step. You know, and even recent changes of CEOs, like we saw in a French dairy company, okay, which had a lot of activist action around it, forces a lot of CEOs and a lot of C-suites to rethink. So everybody kind of pushes the can further down. I'll do my 3 years and then let some other person kind of figure it out. So that's why we see promises of 2050 or 2070, and we know we don't have that time. And the way we found it easier to be cracked is that it has to become part of how the company makes money. So today, if I sell one more fruit bowl, but I'll end up giving it in a single-use plastic, I am actually growing at the cost of the planet. But somehow, if I'm able to find a solution where every time I grow, there is a positive impact on people. There is a positive impact on the farmer. And just to give you an example, look, for every ton of pineapple that we make, there are 3 tons of pineapple leaves that would just getting wasted. Okay, and they would either get burnt, which would have methane in the atmosphere, or they would just end up in the soil. And one of the crazy delusional ideas we worked on was to try and create vegan leather. So we partnered with Ananas Anam, created a vegan leather called Peanut X. In fact, Nike just launched a fantastic range of shoes. I mean, please, I urge you all to buy your next set of Happy Pineapple shoes. But you see, suddenly, now the Economic Development Board of Singapore is actually partnering with us. We've set up a new business division. There are more than 1,400 retailers signed up to use the vegan leather. So the farmer starts making more money, because earlier there was no money for waste. The planet is better off because there is no methane. We're potentially making a bit of money. Nike has some outstanding sneakers and by changing how we view waste, how we view the impact to the planet, we've been able to generate growth with a positive impact to people, communities, and the planet. So as soon as companies start figuring what is it in their business cycle that they can make a positive impact, small as it may be, we'll start getting out of the short-term versus long-term debate. Because if we're making money, we want to do more of it.
And so, Rupen, you're one of the important inspiring leaders in the WFA in terms of embracing that vision of the long term is actually the short term, and there's a business case for behaving in a manner that is sustainable. We've heard you less, but I know that you're equally passionate, but we've heard you less talk to the diversity and equity debate. Share with us what your thoughts are about diversity inclusion as a challenge, and in particular how it applies to the marketing industry, what your thoughts are.
So, look, as a man, I first need to start with an apology to every woman leader out there, because I grew up to a very strong mother. I have an amazingly strong wife. I am trying to grow to amazingly strong women, and I know that the world today is unfairly lopsided to these women. So what I'm extremely proud of is in the last 15 months, our new global head of category development is an outstanding woman leader called PV. Our new head of innovation, our global head of innovation, is an outstanding woman leader called Lara. Our new head of marketing in North America is an outstanding woman leader. Now, it's not serendipity or a coincidence that we are beginning that change ourselves, because the world will only be, and the world will only end being equal if each one of us gets over our conscious or unconscious bias and starts realizing that what we have today is neither fair nor equal. So look, this year's list has been the most amazing thing for diversity, right?
Yeah. So we have actually 5 female leaders on the short list for the nomination to become the Global Marketer of the Year. So 5 female leaders and 2 Asian marketing leaders. So Rupen and Pratik, who we saw this morning.
And this is a sign of big change, right? It's not like somebody deliberately selected that to make a diverse, I mean, this was voting done by a jury, right? None of us are able to influence it. But it is a sign that not every leader needs to be white or male, or worse still, both. Nothing against white males, like them. They're good friends, but the world has been a bit more lopsided in their favor. And I just think now the change at a much faster pace is what we need for it to be a bit more equal world.
And so if we could just elaborate a bit on the 2 Asian marketers on the shortlist. I mean, we've had Asian marketers on the shortlist in the past. And I remember Cheryl from Grab and Richa back then with J&J. But What do we need to do more of in order to see more Asian marketers and more Asian brands recognized at the global level?
I think it has less to do with geography and most to do with the historical HQs being in America or Europe. And over the last few years, you've seen that there are a lot of companies that are choosing to have their global leadership out of Asia. So whether you go to Jollibee's in Philippines, whether you go to Grab, and I'm a big fan of Cheryl, whether you go to all these amazing companies coming out of China, there are lots of global leaders that are doing their work out of Asia now. I had a choice when I took on the Dole role. I mean, America is one of our largest markets. And it was the nice part of America. You know, it was a life in California. And I chose to continue to do this role out of Singapore because there's something magically gritty about Asia. You know, we're full of colors, we're full of smells, we're full of flavors. We like chaos, and there is nothing that fuels better creativity than that grittiness and colors and flavors. And I just think you're going to see a lot more of outstanding leaders that just coincidentally happen to be from India and Indonesia and Nairobi and so on and so forth. Yeah.
We are end of November, almost in 2022. As we project ourselves into next year, you know, so many things changing around us. What does 2022 hold for you? What would be your sort of big predictions in terms of what's coming our way?
Look, there was a saying after World War II, which is, generals should never fight the last war. You know, and as a generation, we tend to forget things quite quickly. You know, look at the financial crisis. The financial crisis came. So many people lost their life saving, lost their houses, lost this. We've moved on. Not a single person has gone to jail. We have been, through the last 18 months, a pandemic that has taught us a lot of good things and a lot of not so good things. It has taught us the value of not traveling as much. It has taught us the value of wanting to see people. It has seen the value of health. It has taught us the value of family. It has taught us the value of balance. And as we step out of it, my big conversation with myself is not to forget it, because it has to stand for something beyond the people that we unfortunately lost. For us at Dole, I mean, I'll say this with a saying we use internally every day. We're not where we used to be, thankfully. And for sure, we're not where we need to be, where we want to be. So for us, it is that constant writing of a new way to conduct business that makes us more money, that allows us to share that prosperity with the entire stakeholder chain, that allows us to better the quality of good nutrition, that allows my children to believe that broccoli is the real treat, not some French fry. I mean, if we don't change that narrative, the health consequences for us are going to be tremendous. But hey, I'm looking forward to actually not doing this in a hybrid manner and hugging everybody that I haven't hugged for quite a long time. I'm a big hugger. So, yeah.
On this optimistic note, thank you much, Rupen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.